Two-a-days rolls on. AFC West. Let's go to the Sound Off Hotline. Welcome in host of Fesco in the Morning, 610 Sports Radio, Kansas City, Bob Fesco. Bob, thanks for taking some time for us here this morning and jumping on talking a little AFC West. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, man. How are you?
Oh, very, very good. Football season right around the corner, and we're jumping right into it with our two-a-days here. All right, let's start with your Kansas City Chiefs. You're right in the heart of it there in Kansas City. A couple of new assistants there on the offensive and defensive coaching staff. You got Charlie Weiss coming in, Romeo Cannell. But I got to believe it's the defensive side, Cannell, that he's handling. He's going to have the most difficult challenge trying to get a defense there to do things last year that they, quite frankly, they weren't able to do. They weren't able to stop the pass, stop the run, and turnovers. They weren't good at that either. So talk about the job that Romeo Cannell has to do here this season with the Chiefs defense.
Well, he has a big one, and they didn't do anything in the offseason to improve their front seven, and they have a lot of money tied up with Tyson Jackson as the left defensive end and Glenn Dorsey at the right defensive end, 2 top 5 picks in past drafts that they really need to start playing like top 5 picks. They've invested a lot of money into those two guys, and one of the things they said in the offseason was that we're going to have some of our second and third year players step it up, and those are the two guys that they're really counting on for this defense to be effective. If they don't increase their production and productivity, then it's going to be a long year for the linebackers because they're not going to have an opportunity to make plays if the guys up front aren't getting the job done.
Are you expecting a direct impact from safety Eric Berry? He's coming into the league with high expectations. People are saying he could be the best safety to enter the league in some years. What do you expect from Berry from the word go?
Well, he's been a guy that's really come into practice and really exceeded expectations for everything they've wanted to see so far. And he was singled out the other day in practice as one of the only guys who actually finishes, every single play, even in practice, even if they're not going full speed. I expect him to make an impact if the guys up front do their job, because we can't have Eric Berry making tackles 8-9 yards down the field. This team will not be very successful. So I expect Eric Berry to be as successful as the guys up front, because, you got to look at the defensive line and the front seven similar to an offensive line to allow those guys to go out there and to make plays, and that's what Eric Berry's going to have to count on. But I think he's going to be a productive guy in the run game. I think they're going to use him sometimes close to the line of scrimmage. He's clearly going to be in the nickel package as well. So Eric Berry's a guy that they're counting on as long as the guys up front get their job done.
Talking with Bob Fesco from 610 Sports Radio. You guys can hear him in the morning on Fesco in the Morning. He is the host of that program. Bob, let's go to the offensive side. Charlie Weiss has a quarterback here in Matt Castle. I personally like the guy. I think this is his year to prove that he's ready to be a legitimate quarterback in the NFL. However, a lot of naysayers out there don't like Castle. Where do you stand on Matt Castle as quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs?
Well, right now I'm a fan of Matt Castle because I don't think you can judge Matt Castle based on what he did last season. He was sacked over 40 times. He didn't have any wide receivers. He had a malcontent running back. He didn't have a tight end. And now they've gone out there and they've improved the offensive line. They've gotten him some wide receivers in Dwayne Bowe back to 100% and not taking water pills. They've got Chris Chambers in for a full year. They drafted Tony Moeaki, who's wowed in practice. They had Thomas Jones into the mix with Jamal Charles. They added Ryan Littlejohn on the offensive line. They've given him a lot of weapons, and they've given him Charlie Weiss as an offensive coordinator. And Tom Brady will tell you he credits Charlie Weiss for his development as a quarterback. So I'm willing to give Matt Castle this year. They've given him the weapons. Last year they didn't have the weapons around Matt Castle. Last year they didn't have guys that could go out there and make plays. This year they have that. So the excuses are gone for Matt Castle. They've got the pieces in place to have him be able to have a successful season. He didn't go from being very good in New England to being a turd in a year with Kansas City because he forgot how to play quarterback. And I think when you look at a quarterback in the National Football League, that position is the most over-scrutinized, overrated position in all of sports. Everybody thinks everything starts and ends with the quarterback. But if you don't have talent around you, if you don't have pass protection in front of you, it doesn't matter who's back there. You're not going to get the job done.
Yeah, case in point, in Minnesota Vikings, look, Brett Favre is back, but if he doesn't have the talent around him, I don't think Brett Favre comes back. We're talking with Bob Fesco from 610 Sports Radio in Kansas City, previewing the AFC West with us. A few more questions on the Chiefs, Bob. Two-headed monster backfield there, Jamal Charles, Thomas Jones. Are they going to go to a featured back and then have the other one come in on third down, or is this a plan by Charlie Weiss to get both guys equal time?
I think that the trend we're seeing in the National Football League is you have to have two legitimate running backs. And I'll go back to 2003 with the New England Patriots when Charlie Weiss was the offensive coordinator there with Kevin Falk and Antoine Smith. Both of them had exactly the same amount of carries and exactly the same amount of yards rushing. And that's kind of what I expect with this team. It's better to have two guys with less wear and tear on their bodies so they're fresh in November and December than it is to pound one guy constantly and bring in a guy on third down. I think we're going to see at the end of the season both of the guys get roughly the same amount of carries, roughly have the same amount of yards, and that's going to be the best for this offense because as we saw with the '07 Giants and then last year with the New Orleans Saints and the Carolina Panthers, I mean, you've got some teams that have two legitimate running backs. They're going to split the time evenly. That's just the way to do it, and that's the smart way to do it to keep everybody fresh.
What are expectations like there in Kansas City for this Chiefs team? I don't know if you could put a number on it for me as far as W's goes here on August 20th. The season's approaching 3 weeks away or so. But I got to believe, in this AFC West division, I think it's wide open. I think there's too many issues in San Diego. I think Oakland will be better, and Denver may take a step back. So I got to believe Chiefs fans, well, they got to have some sort of expectations for their team to possibly sneak in there and make a playoff appearance.
Well, I think they can win 10 games, and people think I'm nuts and I'm out of my mind, but I think the division sucks. I think they get the NFC West, which that division sucks too. They get Buffalo and they get Cleveland. Those two teams suck. So there's the opportunity there for this organization to go out and win some games. I mean, you get a win over the Rams. You can get a win over the Seahawks. You can beat the Browns. You can beat the Buffalo Bills. You can beat the Raiders twice. Denver's nothing special. You split with San Diego, and you're looking at a potential 10-win season. I think the opportunity is there for the Kansas City Chiefs. The opportunity now needs to be seized by this organization going forward.
Let's go inside of the AFC West, outside of the Kansas City Chiefs. Oakland Raiders, I think they're going to be a better team. I'm looking at 8-8, 7-9, right around there, which is an improvement for the Raiders. How much does Jason Campbell improve that team at the quarterback position?
Well, I think over the guy that they had there last year who was, popping pills and eating instead of playing quarterback, I think he's going to help it from that standpoint. But how good is Jason Campbell as a quarterback? He never really reached full potential, I don't think, in Washington. Had a lot of different offenses thrown at him and was constantly changing. But going to Oakland isn't always the best situation either. I think Jason Campbell needed more of a stability factor than going to the Oakland Raiders. I think he's going to be an improvement over Jamarcus Russell, but I don't know how much better he's going to be in his first year. It takes time to get on the same page as your receivers, on the same page as the offensive coordinator, learning the new system, learning a new city. So I think they'll be a better football team, but I don't know that they're going to be a football team that's going to the postseason or anything like that. But Jason Campbell, I think, will make them a little bit better.
Okay. Over in San Diego, Norv Turner, he's won games during the regular season. He's struggled, though, in the postseason where it matters most. Expectations a little high, but I think they're scaled back a little bit with the question marks surrounding Vincent Jackson, a lot of guys in the team not all on the same page here in training camp. So does that take the spotlight off the Chargers? And if it does, can they thrive off of this? Can they build off of this and maybe advance deep into the playoffs than we usually see the Chargers go?
No, I don't think so. I think this is going to be one of those years where a lot of turmoil affects it. LaDainian Tomlinson held that locker room together. He's gone. He's no longer a part of this team. Vincent Jackson's holding out. Marcus McNeil's holding out. You got issues with Sean Merriman, who just signed his deal and is finally in, but still issues there. There's a lot of issues surrounding the San Diego Chargers right now, and that's why I think the Chiefs can win that opener on Monday night because of all the turmoil surrounding that team. When you lose your best wide receiver and your left tackle, I don't care who's back there at quarterback. Phillip Rivers is going to have a difficult time finding people to utilize. And as far as running back goes, they've got a rookie in there at running back who's never taken a snap in the National Football League. You go from one of the best of his generation in LT down to a guy who's never taken a snap in the National Football League, there's going to be a drop-off. So I think there are definite questions and concerns with the San Diego Chargers. Plus, Norv Turner's their head coach, who I don't think is a very good head coach.
In Denver, they're looking to circle the wagons here. Look, they had some big wins a year ago. Josh McDaniels came in. He was able to get some wins that a lot of people probably think they didn't deserve winning games, but he kept his team together. They lose Brandon Marshall. He's off to Miami, so they don't have a legitimate number one. And then they bring in this guy, I don't know if you've heard of him, Tim Tebow out of the University of Florida. What do you expect from Tebow and the Broncos as a team this year in 2010?
Well, I think it just depends on if these guys respond to Josh McDaniels or not, and how much infighting there is, and the health of that team, and really who's going to play quarterback. I know they extended, their starter for another year, but I still think there's question marks surrounding them. I still think they have a lot of holes on defense. They're going to be having a new center in there as Casey Wigman moves over, to Kansas City and comes back to Kansas City. So I think there's a lot of question marks for the Denver Broncos, and I think the Chiefs get the upper hand on them just by the way they beat them in Denver. The Chiefs hadn't won in Denver since 2000, and they went in there last year. No means should they have won that football game, but they did. They found a way to win it. And I think that's going to achieve success for the Chiefs this year and carry over. And I think it may have a negative effect for the Denver Broncos. They got to just figure out what Josh McDaniels is doing as their head coach.
Wow, good stuff. Bob Fesco joining us here in the Sports Down Show, helping us out with our two-a-days AFC West preview and Kansas City Chiefs preview. Bob, I got you down for 10 wins and a division title. I might be buying into this. I'm looking into the Chiefs' schedule here. They finish off with Denver, San Diego, St. Louis, Tennessee, and Oakland. They pretty much control their own destiny. I might be drinking the Kool-Aid in that 10-win season.
No, I think it's realistic. The Tennessee game may be a little bit difficult for them, but when you got Oakland and St. Louis at the end of the year, those are very, very winnable football games.
Good stuff. Fesco in the morning. He's the host of it, Bob Fesco. Listen to him on 610 Sports Radio in Kansas City. Bob, appreciate your time, man. Hope we can catch up with you, talk more Chiefs football later in the season. Thanks for jumping on.
Hey, you got it. Anytime.
All right, Bob Fesco, Sports Radio 610 in Kansas City.